Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Welcome to a Coffee with Karen, a cup of positivity with just a sprinkling of woo-woo. I know more recently we've been sort of edging towards maybe a little bit more than a sprinkling of woo-woo. So we're going to bring it back a little bit. Just a little bit, though. There's still woo-woo here. Because each week, each of my guests, in general, they tend to be around holistic health. This week is a little bit different, I would say. And everybody really just gives their... The topic is really from a mental, a physical or a spiritual perspective, or any combination of those three. So I'm your host, Karen Roberts. I suppose I would consider myself a holistic transformation coach, helping people find their mojo, really, getting them back on track, whether that's business related, whether that's health related. So today we've got actually two guests who have started on a phenomenal venture, or something that's actually close to my heart, because I pulled my own daughter from the mainstream school. So guys, if you could both introduce yourselves, tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and share a little bit of your story, please. So I suppose, Gemma, let's start with you.
Okay, good morning, listeners, if that's what you say. It's my first time doing a podcast with the lovely Karen and a sprinkle of her woo-woo, which I'm definitely looking forward to taking that away with me today. So thank you, Karen, for that. So like I say, I'm Gemma. I work alongside Jacqui at Spiritus, and we basically run workshops and sessions for young people aged 9 to 16 in Hammersmith West London who are no longer in mainstream school, or maybe have never attended mainstream school before. And we provide sessions for them so that they can socialise, engage, and still have a creative learning foundation. And that can be spiritual, it can be part of a curriculum, it can be part of topic work, it can be arts, drama, dance, anything, basically. If the children have a spark and a zest for anything that they want to learn, Jacqui and I will go out of our way to find the right facilitators to make sure that that happens. I have a 10-year-old daughter. She was in school up until year 4. And throughout the years of like year 2 to year 4, she was experiencing some racism within school, which was undertones of bullying. And I found that it was kind of always brushed under the carpet. And there was just one too many occasions when she came out of school crying, or waking up in the mornings, going to school and crying, saying she had a bellyache. And we all know what those bellyaches mean. It just means that they're not happy and they internalize it and don't know how to verbalize what it is that they're really feeling. So it got to a point where I just said, enough is enough. That the school system basically has control over my daughter more hours of a day than I do. And it was something that I didn't really like also. I felt like I was just that mum that was picking her up from school, rushing home to put her in the bath, quickly make her dinner and put her to bed. And that was all I got of my special little girl. And I felt like this narrative had to change, where we're not just mums on the run all the time, that we actually have to have some well-balanced, thought-out time with our children. And by being at Spiritus and working at Spiritus and having my daughter attend Spiritus also, we get the best of both worlds, because she gets to socialise, I get to work, I get to feel powerful, I get to still be a mum, and I get to see my daughter flourish and love life now and not be so anxious about every day, wake up actually wanting to go to Spiritus, running back home because she forgot her book, which was To Kill a Mockingbird, which she's reading currently at the moment with the facilitators at Spiritus, and she's only 10 years old, loving doing her homework now. And this is actually not just her, but what we get collaboratively from most of the students at Spiritus that they enjoy what they're doing now because they're not forced to actually partake in subjects or topics that they don't really enjoy. Right. So that was kind of like the journey that we're on so far, and alongside Jacqui also.
That's pretty amazing. Just what you've just said there about them enjoying doing homework. Well, listen, right. If you've got any kids that don't, well, they're doing something right. Just for that one thing. Fantastic. I think it's amazing what you're doing. And so is your background teaching, or have you just ended up facilitating this?
No, so basically I started out as a support worker. So I work in local prisons, I work with local football community trusts, and through there I was able to upskill myself and do a lot of training from mental health, safeguarding, first aid training, all the background checks done, obviously. And through that, I also done some work with the local people with Grenfell fire, the tragedy. So I had my finger in quite a lot of pies in West London, so to say. And so through that, I was able to contact some of the people that I've worked with currently, recently, and before, for them to help us kind of get Spiritus in the right direction in some parts and to help navigate some parts of Spiritus for us. I was a support worker and still am.
Right. Wow. It really is something that sounds very unique. Or have you heard of other people in the wake of everything that's happened that are doing similar things, or this is just sort of spurted from you guys?
Well, it was mainly Jacqui to start with, and she had this vision, and which she'll explain more to you about this in a moment. And I thought she was bonkers. I'm never taking my child out of school. Are you crazy? And the more that I saw her children flourishing, and also other people that I know that are homeschooling, I was like, actually, these ladies are onto something. They've got it right, and the children aren't burnt out. They're actually looking a lot more happier. And so I started to look into it more and seeing that actually I was working and then trying to figure out childcare, how to run around as a single mum, collect my daughter, be at work at the right hours, not let people down. And I was just feeling quite frazzled myself. So my daughter was burnt out and I was burnt out. And I just thought at some point, this is just going to kind of like blow up in our faces. And I've got to change what we're doing in our lives. So I started to join in some homeschooling groups where you would go off for the day, you'd meet in local parks, or you'd meet at Kidzania, places like this. But when I was attending these meetups, socializations, I was finding that the age group was really varied.
Right.
So my daughter's 10, she was 8-ish, 9-ish. And then there would be like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 14-year-olds. And then that's when Jacqui was saying we need to kind of like hone in on an age group and an actual place where we have a roof over our head. So it was just through her vision and then us putting our heads together and then meeting locally with some people that I've known from my work experience, my work background, that things started to take shape and form. But I'll let Jacqui.
Brilliant. Yeah, Jacqui. So this really was an inspiration from you then?
Do you know how this started? It's, a really brief bit right at the beginning when my girls actually started school. I always remember, and it kind of pinged back into my brain at some point. I walked into the gates and I thought, this is great, free childcare, bonus, they're getting educated. Never in my life was I thinking homeschooling at that point. So this is years back. So then the years have gone on, and then my middle child was due to go to high school. She's very sensitive. She's had a lot of operations. She's really connected in a spiritual sense. And all I could see was she'd go to high school and she'd be swallowed up. She wouldn't be able to cope with it because she is so sensitive. And so from that point, I started looking at places like Steiner schools. And then, because I have 3 children and they would all be going together, financially it weren't really that affordable for us to do. So then the next stage was homeschooling. So I started looking into that. And then I just got this huge burning desire within me. It had to be, homeschool had to be. There's no yes or no, it had to be. So then I had to deal with my husband, who was very much, no, they're in really good Catholic schools and that's where they should stay. They're excellent schools. And I'm just like, no, I'm feeling this in my heart. This has to stop because it's no good. My elder child was already in high school, and she was starting to wear loads of makeup. She was getting the attitude of the teen. She was like 12 coming to 13. My youngest, she was at that time, she probably would have been about 7 or 8 years old, always getting stomach aches. And then I've got my middle child who was about to transition to high school, and I could see she would be literally sucked up in the system. So I had this burning desire, I need to get them out of school. And I just kept badgering my husband until he just literally shouted at me, just do it. And so I said on the computer, and the deregistration letter went, it was gone. So then 4 years down the line, I immersed into the home community for home education because I had loads of questions, which most parents have. What happens when you get to college? What happens with exams? So that was my main question, because I had my elder child and then my middle one was, she's going to come up the ranks pretty quick. And what I found out from actual feedback who have actually gone through it from parents, that some children would go to college with no exams. They just maybe set functional English and maths just to see what their ability is when they enter college. Some would just be accepted by colleges on the back of a portfolio, of an interview, because what I was finding out from parents and what I was seeing with the children, like Gemma said, they're not burnt out. In the system, they get burnt out. They're going from the age of, from here, anything from 3 to 4 years old, they're going right through to primary. Then they're going to high school. High school's giving them another lesson, which is called homework. And they've got no room to breathe. Their brain's got no time to rest, to recuperate. They're going for the 6-7 terms. They're working at the weekends. And it just really was a light bulb moment for me. Yes, they're burnt out. And then 3 months down the line, I've taken my children out. My eldest is no longer wearing makeup. She's no longer having attitude. She's now 13 years old. She's started to skip around the kitchen. That's not cool really to do, but she's starting to do that. She's interacting. She's connecting with us again. My middle one, it feels like a weight is off her shoulders. It's like, I can't believe I don't have to go to high school. My youngest one has stopped having stomach aches. So, they're 3 children. These are all 3 different children. And they're showing huge, what would I say? Like
they're thriving. Sounds like they're absolutely thriving in a new environment.
They're thriving because they're allowed. And what it is since they've been out, they say that you need a month for every year you've been at school to deprogram yourself. And in reality, I think my children took about 2 years to really de-school and stop, what shall I do? When shall I do it? What can I do now? Am I allowed? All of those questions to the point now, they just ask. And that's what Spiritus is really founded for children, one, to come together to socialise, because that's the essential part of growing up into adulthood. And I was finding there was a huge lack of that on our home ed circuit. And then the other thing is to actually be in sessions and actually be able to ask, to question a teacher if they don't feel it's right. And that is empowering to them in such a young age to be able to bring through to adulthood. My experience in adulthood, starting work, I was so intimidated by my bosses, and they were adults, and I was viewed as an adult at that point. But because the system, it just took me through, be quiet, don't be seen, don't be heard, all of that shutting down. And now my children, any adult, any friend that they meet of mine, the feedback is, gosh, they're so confident, aren't they? And like, yeah,
wow.
because they're not being shut down anymore. They've had that room. They've been out for, I think it's coming up to 5 years now. And Spiritus, at first, they was like, oh, you know, they weren't really into it as such because there weren't many children here. So they're missing that whole socialising banter. But we're really growing at a really nice, steady pace and getting older children in. And they're loving coming. And like Gemma said, they enjoy doing their homework. My middle one, who's 13, she's now ready. She's been told she's flying in English and she's ready. We do the IGCSE. She's ready to sit that now. And she said, the teacher, she said she's like years ahead of English.
Yeah.
But she's got the room. She's got the capability. The brain is resting. We don't start till 10:30. So their body clock can work with the natural cycle of change. It's huge. And when I put it against the system, I just see so many flaws. I know it works for many, but many it doesn't. And there's many flaws that are just really suffocating our kids.
Well, it's nothing's been changed, has it? It's right. I mean, it's Victorian schooling. I'm sure my own daughter would have loved that. She's to come home and tell me how amazing. Can we not move to Finland? Because they seem to have this system. And there is a big difference, isn't there? It is the fact that it does seem to be, kids seem to be pushed from a young age. My children were brought up in Portugal, so they did actually start school a year later than you would do here. And I noticed a big difference with that. See, one did and one didn't. Right. So there was a slight change there. I'm still not saying that system was amazing because they had their own issues. But the big thing I see, from a personal point of view, is the fact that does seem to be the children that are a little bit stronger, more confident, seem to, they can push themselves through, but it does seem to be the ones that maybe are a little bit more introverted, little bit like you've just both said, either sensitive or they've been bullied. They just seem to get lost in the system because they're not getting enough support. So from what you've just shared there with your own experiences with your own children, it sounds like they've benefited massively because they would have just been swallowed up in a big school that they don't get the support. Is that right?
And saying that, Karen, my elder one, she ended up going back to year 10, which obviously, I'm not going to turn around and say, no, you're not allowed to. She wanted to do that because at that point, Spiritus weren't as it is now. And I think if it was, she probably would have stayed with me because there's the children of her age to socialise with. It was just purely because she wanted to socialise. Yes. And every single day she's tired. She's got her homework to do. She's in her exams. She's in her last year. She's tired. And I said to her, come to Spiritus. And she's like, no, she's on it. It's absolutely fine. She's looking at A-levels. What will be, will be. But, I know what their alternatives there are. And since being on the home ed community, I can see there's a huge world. It's nothing to be scared about. It's actually when you step into it, it's amazing. And it's so awesome to the point I cannot believe I've never been told about this.
And there you go. That's the key. People are not aware that you can do it. I didn't even think at the time. I only pulled my own daughter last year because of all the madness that was going on, and she'd gone into a new school, and she's a little bit more introverted and struggling with it. And I just thought her mental health to me was more important than school. However, I think if there was something like what you're offering there available that I was aware of, I think I probably would have pulled her before, because my loss, I say my loss, my daughter's loss, what I sort of, have taken on, and I the only thing I do regret is the fact that she wasn't socialising, because she's just had a tutor at home, and I do think she has missed out on certain things with that. But her mental health to me was more important, and I don't regret that at all. I just wish we had something, or I was aware of something like, that you guys are offering.
Well,
that's it.
Can I say, Karen, whilst my daughter was in school, in primary school, we'd suffered a lot of bereavement. So I'd lost my sister, which was my daughter's auntie and godmother. I lost my mum and my dad as well. And during the time of being in primary school, we had also my auntie pass away. So we had 4 people back to back.
Yeah, very close.
And it was my auntie's funeral on the Tuesday. And the headmistress of the school said, well, your daughter will be back in school on Wednesday, won't she? And I said, I'm feeling under pressure and obviously very torn and wobbly that I've just lost my auntie. I was like, okay, fine. And she said, and I also know, like, it's your mum's funeral on the Thursday and your daughter will be back in school on the Friday, won't she? And at this point, I wanted to kind of like lose my mind slightly, but conforming to the system and doing the dutiful thing as a parent and making sure your child is back in school, I abided by what she said and I did it. And only now, after maybe 3-4 years, my daughter's suffering is now starting to come out. She wasn't able to grieve and she wasn't able to process and be told, and I wasn't told, you know what, actually you can take a month off to recuperate and to mourn the loss of what's been going on. It was just make sure you're back in, make sure we tick those boxes, make sure that there's no absence on your attendance sheet. And now, all these years down, my daughter has now been able to process and grieve for the loss. She's now registered under CAMS, which is the Child and Mental Health Services, for the loss that we had gone through. You know, so at night time she wakes up and she cries because she's scared of death. But if we'd have been able to deal with that whilst we were in school, it may not have been so prolific as what it is now.
No, and I totally would agree with that. And there you go again. It's almost like we almost convert back to children because it's like we're being told by this authoritative person back to, I know on this show we talk a lot about from the health point of view that we give our power away to these people in white coats. Well, I'm in a white coat. Do I have authority? And it's the same with the school system. It's like the headmistress, you know, it's almost like I resort back to being a school.
Yeah, you do.
I'm told. And that's crazy, isn't it?
But that's how you're sucked in so much as a child, isn't it? And from 0 to 7, I found out they're your most influential years, very subconsciously. And whatever goes on then, you just keep reenacting and acting out and feeling. And that's what we have to start looking at when we're doing our inner child work as an adult. And we have to just try and unlayer all of that stuff.
There you go. And that's why all this healing is needing to go on because of back then, and how crazy that it's turned to. And I'm not, you know, again, I'm not dissing, you know, teachers I know go into this field because of their love of teaching and they probably do want to make a difference. However, they get into, it's the system that's not wrong, not the teachers. So I'm not, please listeners,
it's absolutely true, Karen, because there was many times we had a lot of support during school from the headmistress to the deputy head, but there was times when you could just see that they were just basically having to do their job as well.
It's the whole system, and you said it just there about you know, they've got to tick their box. It is they have so much pressure because it is again numbers. It's at the end of the day they're not children. They're just a spreadsheet of numbers. Who turned up, who didn't. And for their, whatever the Ofsted report, whatever it is that they're going for, they don't care. They're not thinking about that child who needs time to grieve.
And they
the
can't.
loss of another family member. They just think, but that's going to be one day. Right, no, she's got to be back that day. Yeah. Because otherwise we're going to be close to whatever
the attendance levels are down, and it's
that's just such a shut. And there you go. And then now you're saying it's only now, thankfully, because you're obviously aware of it, that you're aware that she's going through this grieving process years later. Whereas, it should have been dealt.
The thing is, if she'd still been in school, possibly this might not come out for a few more years yet. But because she's now had time to actually stop, breathe process. We both have. She's been able to see, you know, what it is that physically is inside her. And also just from doing some holistic work, she goes to see a lovely Reiki healer called Maurizio. Maurizio, I hope you're going to be listening to this podcast. And also the OCC, which is the Osteopathic Centre for Children. They give a free service to children to have holistic work done. So through these two people and organisations, she's now been able to work through her anxiety, and it's getting much better day by day, and not having to go down the medical route of taking prescription medications at the age of 10.
That's what they would have been given. So I love the idea that. So can you share as well a little bit of the alternative? I mean, it does make me laugh, this alternative. Basically, it's the original, isn't it? It
should be the norm.
Is that the normal, what we should be doing? Sort of, not services. Oh, we're dealing with children. The lessons that you offer.
So we call them sessions, Karen. Yeah, we call them sessions. And we really just try. We keep changing it up at different programs. So we've got 6 programs throughout the year. And we're always looking, the idea is that we talk to the young people who come to us and we ask them, what do you want to do? What's going to tick your boxes? What do you want to investigate, learn more about? And then they're the workshops we try to work on. We do find there's very natural energy we're working with at Spiritus. And we do find that people are coming to us and the sessions are being created in a really creative, very natural way. So that is happening very easily and organically for us at the moment. And people coming through our door to us who want to do sessions and that are really ticking the boxes. So we've got raw cooking, hopefully is on the books. We're just trying to see how we can accommodate her with what she needs for tools. We've got someone who might do taekwondo, and that's going to be through a parent. We're actually progressing from drama to dance to an amateur theatre group so that they can really get meaty with it, and that's sing, dance, acting. But rather than you have to do every single part, whatever they like to do, they do those bits. They're not going to be made to act. They're not into acting, you know, all of that. And then we've got the English, we've got the maths, we've got geography going on.
We also have some really other kind of holistic side of things, from gong therapy, sound baths, angel card readings, birth chart, like astrology.
Fantastic.
We've had all sorts going on, and we actually find some of the children tend to at the beginning resist some of the holistic approaches because their energy isn't in balance yet. And once they start to engage in more holistic practical work, you see that actually their personalities start to change as well. So they're not in that kind of fight mode and embrace, and you start to see that their characters change as well, which is really, really lovely when you see this transformation in them.
Love this. So they're being forced, aren't they? They're being forced. They're all being forced into a box when they go to school. And all those, I mean, even just what you're doing, even with cooking. I mean, home ed. I mean, has it been taken out of the curriculum? I mean, I think my daughter did it a couple of times. It was so normal back in the day, which I think that's a life skill.
Yeah. Textiles, cooking, carpentry, all of that,
And most of our young people that first started with Spiritus, they're all first aiders now as well, fully qualified and trained. So to save a life is really important. So life skills going on here at Spiritus, not just the stuff, but the stuff that they're going to need for later on in life. And we're working towards mechanical type of things like how to change a tyre, how to change the oil in your car, you know, all of those kind of things. Taught my daughter the other day how to change a light bulb. I mean,
but you had the time to, didn't you?
But it's basic stuff that we all need, unless they're going to go and spend a load of money bringing out, you know, somebody on an app. They're going to have to pay to do things around the house that you can more than, you know, it's just bringing, I love it. It's almost bringing things back to basics. And I don't know why it was sort of taken out in schools. Did they just expect the parents to teach them those things on top of them going to school all day, coming back, doing their homework? I'm not sure when they're expected to sleep, however, let alone let off steam.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the sort of the sports activities, it was all frowned upon, and that was being reduced. Whereas, you know, and then they'll label the child with ADHD because the child hasn't been given the space to run off steam and goes back to school and can't focus. I mean, it does. I think most parents, I think, recognise it, that it's wrong, but probably feel that there's nothing they can do about it because that's the system.
Yeah, for sure. And also then it's balancing act with their work as well. You know, many children coming to us, their parents are working while they're here with us. We don't open till 10:30. So some of them, it's like, oh, you know, what am I going to do for those first couple of hours? But, you know, it's so important. We're seeing, you know, children, it's a huge difference for them just to be able to have their full quota of anything from 9 to 10 hours. You know, they need it. And it's been shown that there's a reason why our system works how it does at school. There is a reason they don't want us to be too independently thinking. It's been very looked at very thoroughly.
Well, we've just touched on that, haven't we? That even we as adults almost resort back to that childhood. I'm just going to sit here and do as I'm told. I would naturally, and I'm probably quite a feisty.
Not you.
And even I sort of feel like I can't say anything back to the teacher because of that. So that just goes to show
how ingrained
we've been brainwashed. We've been brainwashed.
And because it's 0 to 7 here, so, you know, from 3 to 4, it's on such a subconscious level, we're not actually recognising it until it starts playing out in our adulthood. And then we're questioning, why do I feel so inferior and intimidated by these people, X, Y, Z, whoever I'm crossing with? And it's because it's like that trauma's being reactivated from your subconscious years.
I mean, I know I'm probably not the. They might not have done such a good job with me. I can remember being at and this was in Portugal. My daughter, I think the teacher was expecting. She wanted to come and speak to me, to go in and speak to her. So I think she was expecting me to tell her off, and she'd sat through a maths test or something. And she was, you know, the rubber. She was sort of making the shavings out of the rubber, you know, and all the little bits, and had designed this flower.
Very creative.
And I praised her for it. I went, oh, that's creative. And this teacher was just, I think, absolutely mortified because she was expecting me to tell her off because she wasn't doing what she should have been doing. But she'd made this beautiful, very creative flower out of all the rubber cravings. And that would be the problem with their system. Everything out of a textbook, everything academic. And my child was creative and there was no outlet for her.
Yeah. And then that's when they start getting, they start rebelling, don't they? And they start getting angry and they start getting cross. And they're not being angry, say, at the parents. Parents have to deal with it all when they come home. But they're angry because, like I said, there's no outlet. There's no creativity. No. They're not really nurturing what the child is all about. And every child is so different. Like adults, we all go and do different jobs. You know, there's a reason why we don't do all the same job, because we are all different.
Doesn't suit us.
Exactly the same. That's schooling and learning.
And my daughter's very much creative as well, Karen, you know, and just having that 1 hour maybe a week in school to do her creative side wasn't really enough for her. So she wasn't able to really let go of all the juices inside of her, you know. And I noticed that from a very early age. And Jacqui knows this story, when one day I took a dress out of my cupboard and I put it on and there was a big patch missing out of it. And I was like, well, what's gone on here? And that was one big moth that ate my dress. But she'd actually cut a square out of my dress to make something for her doll. And a bit like yourself, I wasn't angry with her because I could see that she just needed another outlet to be more creative. So I then started to send her to art school, outside of school. So then again, it was another thing on top of our weekend that had to take up our time. So we wasn't getting time to relax. And then I was just like, you know what? loads of boxes in the house, lots of messy time. Let's do tie-dye inside the bath and not worry if we get it on the tiles. And I just started to see that, you know, she was starting to release that energy. And it was so much better for her because she is academic, but, you know, she really, really needs to be in paints and pastels and paper cutting and crafting.
As a lot of them do. And you just think the world is well, we're not getting the true talents that there could be out there. They're being stifled, aren't there? There could be so much more. There could be so much more to see, so much more because they've got so much to give, but they've never been taught it. And at the end of the day, isn't that what life is? It's just a great big book that you can choose whatever it is you want. But if you're only ever been shown the first 5 chapters, and there's this whole thing left, you're never gonna go towards whatever it is you love.
And also, it's like, you know, I question, why does everything have to be done within such a short time of our life? In our age, we need to learn everything about everything. There's no, you know, we have like 80, 90 odd years in our lifetime here. And you're not going to be interested in every single subject school delivers you up to the age of, say, 4 to 18 years old. We've got a lifetime to learn all this information, but everything seems to need to be crammed and pushed, and you need to know this, and you have to know that, you need that exam, and the pressure of the exams is beyond me. My eldest, who's at high school, and she's saying, but what happens after college? I do 2 years, or A-levels, I do 2 years, and then what? And I'm thinking, you have got the whole world at your feet. You have so many options. That world, this earth is amazing. And she's there at the age of nearly 16 thinking, what do I do in 2 years' time?
Panicking.
My
daughter, well, both. I've got one's going to be 18 very, very soon. And I've got a 22-year-old. They still don't know. And I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It is absolutely fine to not know yet. Chill. Yeah. Go and just get a job to tide you over and you will find your way. When you're ready, and then you can go and choose a course. You know, all this pressure to do everything then, like you say, all these children getting themselves into debt to get a university degree, which really is just proof that they can get their head down and study something. That's all it is. It's a very expensive method of doing it. And
because then you get in debt and then you have to pay it back and work hard and not have the life that you want. So
and it's I do hear what I think really sad about that is then I hear of children that are avoiding getting a job that pays a certain amount because in their head is, well, I won't have to pay it back. If I get that job, I'll have to start paying it back. And that is just, what a conundrum that is. You think, and the point of doing it was...
But then that also, on the other side of it, that will keep them more in poverty rather than becoming extremely successful. And that is, dare I say, what is the government want to roll out in our society?
Little workarounds.
Yeah. Workarounds. Well, can I say, Karen, at some point in the next term or this term, not too sure, we're going to have some entrepreneurs coming in to give talks to our young people to show them that you can literally start from the bottom, work your way to the top, didn't have no GCSEs, and I've made something for myself and I'm successful. And not only that, I didn't even come from this country. I came as a refugee, some of them, and they're business owners and successful. So we want to just be able to show our young people that are here in Spiritus that when they hear their peers from outside that are in mainstream school, making them feel a bit anxious and scared, like, well, what are you going to do if you don't have your GCSE? Like, your world is over, you know? We're going to let them have tools to be able to say, well, actually, I'm going to do this and I know the route on how to get there.
And it's also, we're really trying to teach them. We are to say, look, you can earn your own money. You don't have to rely on someone to employ you. You make your own money. You make your own hours. You make your own days. That is the whole purpose.
Be your own boss.
Love that. Absolutely. And again, you've only actually got to look. You know, and I'm maybe not going to use the best examples here, but for whatever reason, they have made their, what's his name? Richard Branson. He didn't finish school, did he?
He was a dropout, wasn't he? Yeah.
It was a dropout. A lot of these people, they have been. I mean, I hate these labels, but quite often they will say they were dyslexic or because, and again, I think it is because we're given these labels as children, and then for some of them, they're not being noticed as being different. So say like somebody who's more introverted and someone who's more extroverted, they are going to naturally go one way, and these guys are going to naturally prefer this way. Some people see big picture, others are quite happy doing their little niched subject. And so some are going to be better at managing and organising everything, and others just want to do as they're told, which is fine. Go to whatever you feel happier in. But it does seem to be that it is the entrepreneurs, the ones that do make it, have been very successful, have not necessarily had much schooling, because maybe that would have confined them.
Yeah,
Whereas
totally. They would have had that fire within them without even realising it at such a young age, that there's another way, there's something else, and they don't fit the system. They would have known without knowing they don't fit the system. It's not working for them.
The teachers might have drummed that out of them.
Would tried, very much tried to.
They would have given it a go.
I'm not very successful.
So what you're doing for children, and do you know, it's going to be awesome to see the success of it years down the road. You are going to feel just, I'm sure you do already. You must feel so proud.
Well, we do. But we started this with nothing, Karen, not a penny in our pockets. And we're just really looking for some funding now, ultimately, and via people like yourselves, for other people in the vicinity and further to know that if they want to homeschool their child, or they just want some information, they're feeling scared, they don't know what to do, deregistering, they can just come and see Jacqui and I, have a visit, have a talk. But we just wanted it to be spread through different avenues like yourselves, that we're here to support young people and their parents, their carers, their guardians.
Brilliant.
And even just for advice, it's a huge world. I remember feeling very, very out of my depth, so overwhelmed when I started homeschooling, hugely, and so many questions. And sometimes parents phone up and they might not end up attending us, but we can just point them in the right direction as well. And it's just giving the information. We've been through it a lot now. We've been here many years, and even we can help other people. We're all connecting in some way with other people who are doing something similar, but they're a bit further away from us as well.
Right, because that's going to be one thing. So you guys are West London, is that right?
Hammersmith, yes.
Hammersmith, woo!
And that is the thing, because it is. I mean, I know from my own experience, the way I was spoken to was actually pretty horrendous when I, suggested that this was what I was going to do, and again made to feel that I'm a really bad mother for even thinking about doing it, because that is the way they try to make you feel. So and I suppose I was lucky that I did know somebody that had a tutoring online tutoring thing going on. So if I hadn't have known her, I would never have done it. Okay. I would never have even, I probably would never have even realised it was an option. So yes, knowing that there is something else out there. So to the listeners, if you think your child is not thriving in school, and you would like to know, is there a better way? Then please get in touch with Gemma and Jacqui. So guys, I know depending on whether you're watching the video or actually on the podcast website, obviously all your links will be down below. But to the listeners, then guys, if anybody is thinking about doing this, regardless of where they are, how would they get in touch with you?
Well, they could just come along and have a free trial.
Yeah.
And also, we're open when schools are closed for half-term breaks. So we don't mirror the schools' break times. So, for example, if a child was on a week's half-term, which is coming up really quite close now, they can come and join us for the week. And they can come on a one-day free trial. And if they enjoy it, then they can book up for the rest of the sessions. And then they can see what homeschooling life is like just for the 1 week. And then they can go back to school.
And
so how do you do the holidays then? Do you just allow people to go when they want?
6 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So and our 2 week break is always not in the same as mainstream, and that is being purposely done so that we can afford. It's a lot more affordable to go on holiday, because obviously we all know what those rates are in the mainstream. Yeah. And then we have a 4 week break in June, and then 4 week break at Christmas, so people can have more of an extensive time as well.
Oh, I think that's very important to say. Cool, we could have missed that one.
But yeah, spiritus.org.uk, contact page, my phone number's on there. Just give us a call, we can have a chat and go from there. Super easy.
Instagram, Spiritus Homeschooling. They can drop us a DM there.
Facebook, Spiritus. Woo, come on, let's go.
Absolutely brilliant. And what a great idea to do. So 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off in general. Then you have a 4 weeks at Christmas, 4 weeks in June.
Summer. Yeah.
And our girls are always like, oh, when is Spiritus starting again? They can't wait to go back. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing.
Well, I do think, because, like you say, the expense, moving back to England from Portugal, that was it. We never had a family holiday. Just couldn't afford to go off. Those 6 weeks. I mean, the beauty that because it was so hot, I suppose, in the Algarve. They did have like 3 months holiday. I think it was about 10 weeks, 11 weeks, because it just got too hot. They were not going to air condition every room, no chance. Too hot to work. So they had a really, really long summer. Which again, maybe that's too long. It's like, can there not be something a little bit more in between? So it sounds like you guys have got it right, because it's about balance.
Yeah.
Have a break.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
All the different half terms, 2 weeks, and then you've got your 6, and then even at Christmas, so many people, they've got their families abroad, especially in a city like London, and they want to go off and spend some proper time. And in that, what's normally about 2.5 weeks?
It's just not enough. It's just not enough.
Doesn't make sense. None of it does make sense, and that's where my passion really comes from as well. It's like, let's get back to a bit of sense.
And they also said that, like with the summer holidays, where it can be so long, a lot of children end up regressing. So when they go back into school, they have to start all over again. So
it's too much. It's
having smaller breaks in between kind of what makes more sense, and it works, and it gives everybody a chance to recuperate a bit.
Well, and their brain to actually absorb. I'm sure there must be a ton of research out there just on that part alone that must say the way you guys are doing it is actually better from an absorbing information point of view. I would have thought,
and it should be about quality, not quantity. And I feel they're having to be sent home with a whole shed of work. How are they not seeing that this is an issue and a problem for our children? They should be really, if they can't address what they need to do in those 6 hours at school, 5 days a week. Come on, there's something wrong there.
It is, but as you say, it is that they're only taught to store information, which even in this day and age, really, what is the point? You could just ask
it all. Yeah,
what is the point in just storing information to regurgitate it back in an exam? What does that prove? And in this day and age, we've got information at our fingertips, so surely there's no point in that.
Hasn't it?
What do we do with that? Learning to know what to do with the information surely is more important than just trying to store dates and what happened then. Well, I don't know. I'll ask Siri.
Well, you know what, Karen? My daughter actually said to me, which was about a year ago or maybe more, she said to me, Mum, why is it that I have to wait until I'm 30 to be seen as successful? And when she said that, I was like, where did that come from? But obviously, that's what society possibly is making her feel like. You have to get to a certain age before you're actually seen and valued. And I said to her, no, darling, you don't have to wait until then. You can open up your own business
now, darling.
Right now if you want to. And she was in the process of opening up her own business. But now on the back of Spiritus, it's on hold for a moment. So we don't want to juggle both, but, you know, watch this space. At some point, you might see that she's got her own business out there, and she's 10, you know, and just encourage them to do these things, to, you know, make a business plan, to get their illustrations done for their logos. And you know,
isn't that more important? I mean, these kids are coming out of school. They wouldn't know how to do a business plan. They wouldn't know how to fill out a mortgage, you know, all the things that you're going to come up against in life.
Tax returns to start with. biggest headache ever.
Knowing what you're entitled to, what can go as an expense, what is an expense, and how to do it properly, legally, because the ones that know, well, they'll just pay somebody who knows all the loopholes, and you know, the rest of us are left paying way too much. It does need a, I mean, even down to the, you know, they do the maths, but maybe more put to it the importance of learning your percentages and learning the APR and why not to get a credit card or how to use a credit card correctly.
Well, that's the thing. So like my daughter, she's got a debit card since the age of 9. They're not meant to have them till 11, but boo-hoo, she's my child. I'm going to do what I need. So now she knows how to manage her money. She gets a certain amount of money inside her bank account. When it's gone, it's gone. And now she knows, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't get that. And I should buy 6 for the price of 1. And maybe I should wait because that one's on offer. So it's starting to show her on how to manage her money and what it is that's significant to buy purchases, and maybe what you need to wait for someone else to buy you for a birthday present maybe instead.
Not being so frivolous, isn't it? Not so, where it comes and it goes. It's managing it, helping it work for itself as well.
Yes.
The money just comes and goes. They just spend it. I've seen it with my girls, but it's getting them to understand you want that money you've earned work on itself in a passive way. Don't just keep having to earn money to get money. You really want to learn how to make it work for you when you've earned it.
Go. Only 2 ways of making money, and that's people at work or money at work. And there it seems to be 2 sides. It's either some children are creating poor money mindsets because maybe their parents are, you know, do you think money grows on trees, or, you know, and that's still negative. That's a negative, creating a negative mindset. And then there's the ones that are just given everything, and then they're going to find themselves in trouble because they've never learned. So again, let's go back to balance. So what you're teaching there then is not to be too frivolous, but also that, you know, just because money doesn't grow on trees, you can actually make it as well. Again, it's that balance, isn't it? So that they don't grow up with a bad money mindset, and they don't, and they're not completely, you know, going to get themselves in big trouble from day dot.
They're becoming very budding in their sense of working out how to get things for free as well. We've, you know, quite a few students here. They know if you sign up to certain apps. If you sign up to certain apps, I won't mention company names, but they get free lunch and free donuts and
birthday time.
So they're becoming little, you know, very good at working.
But that's good, because that is half the trouble. It is the not knowing. Some people know exactly what, you know, they can work the system and get a lot, and others are struggling because they don't know their way around the system, and maybe they're not getting the help that they should be getting, and they're working their little butts off, and they're not getting all the resources that should be available to them. And again, it's just about balance.
Well, this is like a narrative that we hope to change in the future, also regarding, you know, local education authorities as well, is that children who are homeschooled, okay, it's our decision as parents to take them out of school, but there are backstories and reasons as to why we take them out of school. And the EYFS, which is the Early Years Foundation, they say that every child matters. So if every child matters, even homeschooling children should matter, and they should still have some funding available, especially to organisations like Spiritus, to be able to help with supplies, art materials, outings, laptops, anything that helps them provide a better, stance inside their education. It should be provided. So, hopefully things change within different boroughs on how they support young people who are homeschooled as well.
Well, and also to support you. So if there's any listeners out there that are any angel investors out there, I'm sure you could do with a bit of support yourselves, guys, for things for the children. Because how have you set this up? It must have. Things comes from donations? Or have you just slowly put in? Is this all your own doing?
No, we haven't actually. So Gemma's contacts locally, they got an email through the youth service, and for the space we're using in the building, the serviced office in Hammersmith. So through Gemma's contacts, we managed to get this space for free. So then what we do, we keep our fees as low as we can. So then we can always cover what the teacher needs. And then we create a small wage for ourselves on the sideline when we can. And so it's always, the main important thing is that the children are getting what they need and the teachers are being paid. That's always been rolled over and covered. That's not a problem. And that's how we work at the moment. We are looking at donations through family and friends at the moment. And we just feel the more donations we get on a regular basis, we can then cover the teachers' fees, which then can actually bring it down lower as well, because we really want to get to the point it's not a financial decision. Some families only come to us once a week because they can't afford to come to us 3-4 times a week, which is really sad to know, but we can't do anything about that at the moment. So the more donations we get, we've got someone who's applying for funding with us, start from now on a regular basis. They obviously take time, but the purpose is there is loads of money out there in our world. All we need is the donations just to cover the teachers, and we're happy days.
Right. So if anybody, any philanthropists out there that want to donate to a worthy cause, you can get Spiritus. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck with what you're doing. It must be very fulfilling, and I suppose things must have really changed in the last 2 years, is it? With all
that C word?
I can't even remember. Is it still going on? I actually don't know. I don't have a TV.
But it's definitely on the rise in homeschooling. I was at a seminar in the Isle of Wight this weekend, and there was a talk from a home educator guy, and he's saying it's rising significantly very quickly, homeschooling, because people have seen so much where their child has been at home and they've seen so much difference and really questioning, what is my child actually getting at school?
Interesting. Okay, so they've seen the change in their child from being at home and maybe don't really want to put them back in.
And the child doesn't want to go back because they are the more, generally what I'm hearing, because they're the more sensitive child, because they're the ones that are feeling anxious to go back. I don't want to, their friend groups may not be the best. So all of these is playing out. Then suddenly they're having to go back because they're no longer online. And it's like, oh my God, child's freaking out. Parents got a real headache to try and get them into school. Obviously we know that's really uncomfortable as a parent. So there's quite an explosion going on.
I would have thought lots of different, and for lots of different reasons as well. And even, I know I did hear about a lot of, again, I suppose children maybe more the special needs, so maybe more autistic children. You just think, bless them, from going from school to the lockdown, that would have been one stage of dealing with it, and then to try and get them back in.
The transition
just transitions, the whole, and I suppose that was the reason why I pulled it was just the whole. I thought, no, I'm not having all these tests and this. No, we're not doing that. You can stay home, relax, and I know in my heart it was the best decision. I'm really excited to see what she can do in her A-levels. Not that I'm putting, so much emphasis on it, but she's happier. She can ask the teacher rather than being put on the spot, and where teachers were putting her on the spot and she would sort of that's not the right thing. You need to give her time. Children respond differently. I would be all right on the spot. No, she would do far better. Give her a moment and she'll come back with the answer. And because they were being put, being put too much pressure on, she wasn't thriving. So no, I know it was the best decision for me. I'm sure there's lots of parents out there that know in their heart that they would love to be able to do it. And these guys are doing it. So please get in touch. Spiritus. Thank you, ladies, for your time. I love the idea that they start later as well. God, I thought would have loved that. She doesn't have an early class.
Us, really.
It all works well. So thank you for your time, ladies. And
thank
to the
you,
listeners, we'll be back next week with a coffee with Karen. Bye for now.
And a bit of woo-woo.
Bye, Karen.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.